My name is Furman Fordham. I am the senior pastor of Riverside here in Nashville. And we want to welcome you to our Riverside family and to our ministry. We are so happy that you have tuned in. Our prayer is that you will come to know God, grow in God, and sow God's love. We are praying that this presentation will be a blessing to you. And if you are ever in Nashville, we invite you to come worship with us. May God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
I was kind of concerned this week thinking about today because I've preached at a couple churches here and there, but when you're preaching at a church that has 4 pastors that can all do their job and do it well, you kind of feel like you have to have something to say. This morning, Pastor Polite sent me something that was encouraging, but then I realized something. I have never, ever been scared of anything as long as my father was with me. And I know y'all might think that sounds good if I was talking about God, but I'm talking about my father. He's here. Where's he? Where's he at? All right? Never. I was scared of a lot of stuff, but if my dad was around, come on with it. That's just how it was. I mean, I had that faith and that trust that he wasn't going to let nothing happen to me. And I know that that's what's supposed to happen with all of us. That's how we're supposed to feel about our Heavenly Father as well. So, because Johnny Watts is here, and because my mom is here, my nephew, my in-laws, my wife, my church family, I'm good. Let's go to our scripture for today. Our scripture is found in Romans 5, 6 to 9. Romans 5, 6 to 9, and it's from the Amplified Bible, so since many of you may not have that, I will read it in your hearing. While we were yet in weakness, powerless to help ourselves, at the fitting time Christ died for in behalf of the ungodly. Now it is an extraordinary thing for one to give his life, even for an upright man, though perhaps for a noble and lovable and generous benefactor, someone might even dare to die. But God shows and clearly proves his own love for us by the fact that while we were still sinners, Christ the Messiah, the Anointed One, died for us. And this is the main text. Therefore, since we are now justified, acquitted, made righteous, and brought into right relationship with God by Christ's blood, how much more certain is it that we shall be saved by him from the indignation and wrath of God? Let's bow our heads. God, do your thing. Amen. Now, I often tell people that by profession, I'm a teacher and now administrator. When I taught mathematics, I had a certain style. Everybody has their style. My style was to use steps. When I taught algebra, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, I found that students often did better if you just gave them the steps, explained the steps, and then let them go for it. And so today is no different. From our text, it seems that we need to have a relationship in order to be saved. So we need to find out the steps to have a solid relationship. Now, relationship has been being used a lot lately. In the last few years, you hear a lot of people, it's not about religion, it's about relationship, and a lot of things have become sort of colloquialized. You know, it's something people say. The problem is it doesn't seem like anything has changed. We're still saying we need a relationship, and I'm not about that, I'm about a relationship. Okay, still having the same problems? Yes. Still doing the same? Yes. So that means that either what we said was wrong, which I don't believe, I do believe we need a relationship, or we don't know how to have a relationship. So today we're talking about the steps to a solid relationship, and now understand this. This is the relationship that you need to have to be saved. Some of these steps, yes, they will sound good for a relationship amongst your brothers and sisters, and they may even work. In fact, some of them will work. But they're about the relationship that we need to be saved. The first step in a relationship, to a solid relationship, is to get to know the other person. No, really get to know them. Ask around. Talk about them. Find out about them. Talk to their friends. Who's their family? Who are they related to? I tell people all the time, because of our world today and what goes on, if I was a single man, I would not date a woman until I saw her baby pictures. Because I want to make sure she's been a woman the whole time. I mean, there are certain things that we just have to look at because of the world we live in. So you have to ask around. You have to get to know them. Okay? You have to check their references. Where do they come from? I can tell you now, and you can ask my wife. I'm from the South Bronx, and she's from Nashville. There are a lot of things that she learned about me when she moved and lived up north. A lot of things that didn't make any sense, and they might still not make sense, but now she knows what it's about. Visiting my parents' home then taught her a lot of things about how I act. Me being down here around her parents taught me a lot of things about why she was the way she was. There are things that you have to know. So if we're going to have a relationship with Jesus, we need to know who he is. We need to check him out. Where was he born? Where was he born? Oh, wow, wow. Step one was good, okay. Where was he born? Okay. Do we know anything about his childhood? Do we know anything about what kind of child he was? We do know that he was definitely trying to be in relationship with his father, with his heavenly father. We know that about him. You can check his credit. Has his promises come true? In the past and in the present, have his promises come true? These are the kind of things you need to know. Because if you're going to be in a relationship, we need to be able to say, I really know this person. Now, the other thing you need to know, which is a little harder to find out about people, is to know their purpose. Now, there's something I found out, and I don't know if everybody's going to agree with me, but I have the mic. I believe that Jesus, after he was born here on earth, was completely human. Completely. We talk about the mix between God and man and all that. I believe Jesus was completely human. Okay, and I'm going to break it down, and if you disagree, we can talk afterwards, all right? There's nothing that he could do here on earth that any of you can't do. Nothing. So every time that you saw him do something spectacular, you can do the same thing. His purpose was to be an example. Correct? So if he was God while he was here, he couldn't be an example. Because you'd say, I'm not God, I can't do that. He was completely human. The thing that he wanted to teach us was, allow God to be inside of you so much and let him be in control, and he'll run this whole thing. That's the example. There's nothing else. All he wants us to do is say, okay, God, use me the same way you used your son. Fill me and take control. If you don't believe it, I can give you an example of how he let go of his own will. When He was in the garden. Terrible time for him. What did he ask? If you can take this cup from me. Was the cup taken from him? No. So that means he put his will aside and said, God, do your thing. That's all he wants us to do. Who wants to die? Nobody. It's very important that we know this person's purpose. His purpose was to be the best example that we could have. So now, in fact, I'll tell you another thing. You know he was trying to be an example because he said that after he left, we would do the things he did and what? And greater things. But how many of us have done greater things? Or how many of us have even done the things he did? Because we haven't followed the example. And when you're in relationship, you have to know the purpose, then you can follow the example. If you refuse to find out somebody's purpose and find out what they're about, it's not going to work. Some of you already know that. Some of y'all can get up and testify to that right now. There's a big problem when you don't know the purpose. So we have to know his purpose. And now that we know, we can be in a better relationship with him. What's number 2? And this is a hard one. It might sound easy, but it's extremely hard. Get to know yourself. You have to realize that you are a product of your environment. I know some of you know, you think back to what your environment is and you're like, I don't want to say that. But it's true. I'm a product of my environment. Now, I'm not what my environment looks like. For those of you who know what the South Bronx looks like, I'm not telling you that I look like my environment. I hope not. But I'm a product of my environment. There are things that I do because of where I come from. There are things that I have a love for because of where I come from. So if 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago, I don't remember what week it was, when the pastor decided to quote from a popular old hip-hop song, and I was screaming over there, it's because of where I'm from. I didn't grow up on hip-hop, I grew up with it. It's something that was born right next to me, and I lived it. So I love it. You know, there are things that you have that you love, but there are some things that we love that we must let go. And we have to realize the only reason they're attached to us is because we're a product of our environment. It's not because it's a part of our life that we have to keep. It's because of where we're from. There are things that we have that are just here for us to let go. Okay, I'm going to say that again. There are things that we have that are just in our lives for us to let go. Do you know that when you're in a relationship, raise your hand if you're married. Okay. All of you can testify to this. There are things that before you were married that you loved. And because you loved the person you married, you gave them up. Yes? Yes. If not, yikes. There were things there. Those things might have even got you to that point, right? They might have been the thing that helped you, motivated you, kept you going. But there's something that you have to give up when there's love involved, or when there's a greater love involved. So you have to realize that you're a product of your environment. Then you have to be open to new experiences. There are plenty of things that a relationship is supposed to show you. If you get into a relationship with somebody and you still do the same things you did when you were single, why do you need to be in that relationship? I mean, if you went to McDonald's all the time and they take you to McDonald's all the time, I was doing this by myself. I don't really need it. New experiences are what's going to change your relationship and make the relationship something that you are invested in, something that you want to be around. There are things that this person can show you, and Jesus is going to show you some new things. He's going to open your eyes to things you never saw. But in order to do that and to be open, you have to let go of something big. You have to let go of your likes and dislikes, or at least be willing to let them be challenged. Now, I'll tell you, there's a vegetable that I really do not like. I mean, do not like. If anybody was sitting near my parents, you could ask them and they could tell you right away. There's no question, Brian does not like this vegetable. And I mean, I would not eat it. I would not eat it when my parents made it, or any of my relatives. I remember my dad made a soup and he put it in there. He knew we wasn't going to eat it, but I saw it in there and okay, I'm done. I can't eat that. I don't like it. But last week, I was at a wedding and in Maryland. And at the reception, they had a dish. It was an Indian reception, and the food was great. Oh my goodness. And there was a dish with this vegetable in it. And the vegetable was the main part. The vegetable is, well, y'all love it down here. I don't know what's wrong with y'all. Okra. You have got to be kidding. Do not clap for okra. And then y'all got the nerve to fry it and sell it next to French fries and stuff like it's good. Ugh. Well, this Indian dish, had okra in it. And it was good. Not only did I eat it, I ate it like it was my favorite. So I can't even say that I don't like okra. After 44 and a half years of swearing that I don't like okra, I have to say I just don't like the way it was presented to me before. For 44 and a half years. Your likes and dislikes can be challenged. There are things that you might think you like, and you'll find out later on, I don't really like that. And obviously things that you don't like that, yes, you do. If we do it a little differently. Allow your mind to be challenged. But so many of us hold on to our likes and dislikes. We don't want to let anything else in. I don't like hymns, so when they sing hymns, I'm just going to stay down in the pew. I'm not going to get up for that. Or I don't like Christian rap, so when they have those programs, I'm not going to support or give any funds to help them out. There's a lot of things I don't like. Let me tell you something else I don't like. And we're going to get close to home. This happens in church. I don't like in church when the pastor or anybody else says, turn to your neighbor and do anything. I don't like that at all. I don't. And there were years when I was like, I bet you I'm going to keep staring forward. I'm not turning to my neighbor. I mean, I don't even know why I don't like that. I just don't. But does it make sense for me to spoil my neighbor's day when they're looking at me saying, huh? Does that make sense? I'm ruining their whole experience. It's me that doesn't like it. I have the problem. Okay? You open your mind to things that you don't like. It's not going to hurt me to say, Jesus loves you. It doesn't kill anybody. And then sooner or later you might find out, hey, it's not so bad. It's not a problem. You have to be open to these experiences. We have to let some things go. In a relationship, you have to just be real. We can't fake it. So many of us are faking it. Oh my goodness. You know what the worst part about seeing people in church during the week is? They know you're faking it. They see you. They're like, oh, that's you? You can't keep faking it. In a relationship, you have to be real because you're trying to become intimate. And what does intimate mean? It means to know and to be known. That's all it really means. And how can I know you if you're faking it? How can we get in a real relationship? And we're looking for this relationship with Jesus, and he's saying, as soon as you start being real, we can have something. But if you keep faking it, I'll just keep waiting and waiting. It's a problem that a lot of us have. The next thing we need to do is find our own purpose. We already know the other person's purpose. What is our purpose? It's amazing how many of us have no idea what our purpose is. I finally found out that my purpose, I have a couple, I think, but they'll probably all get tied together in one thing as he reveals. But one of my purposes was education. I fought it forever. I did Jonah's story 3 times. Jonah only did it once. After he got spit out of the fish the first time, he decided, I don't like the smell of fish on the inside. I'm going to leave it alone. But me, 3 times, ran away from education. Every time for more money. I mean, y'all can look at me bad. You like money. I ran away for more money. I started teaching. Well, I left here and I went to Northeastern Academy, my first job as a teacher. The first year, horrible. I didn't want to be a teacher. I got offered the job, and I made an arrogant deal with him. I said, if I don't find any other job, I'll be there the first day of school. Now, if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, forget it. But he said to me, I'm praying about that. In fact, I told him I didn't want to do it, and he said, I'm going to pray against you. You're going to pray against me. Wow, okay. And obviously he won. I started working at Northeastern Academy. The only thing on my mind was that summer I was getting married. So with no teacher's additions, I taught all the math classes, and I could not stand it. And I said, this is horrible. I got to get out of here. And after that year, I left. And I went to work on Wall Street. Now, don't be fooled. Wall Street is a long street. Everybody on Wall Street's not making money. I was one of them. I got promised that I could work overtime, that I could do all this stuff at this job, and I could make all this money, and none of it was true. After a couple months, I talked to some ladies at the job, and they said, what did they tell you? And I told them, they said, that's what they told us. We're all stuck here in a dead-end job. And so one night, a young man called me and said, hey, can you tutor me in math? I heard you were a pretty good math teacher. I said, yeah, I can tutor you. I really didn't want to, but he was paying. So I met him, and I said, I can only tutor you for 1 hour. So we sat down, and 3 hours later, I was high. I mean, I was tutoring math again. And I remember calling my wife like, oh my goodness, I tutored this guy tonight and I couldn't stop. Because she's like, where are you? Oh, I've been tutoring this guy for 3 hours. I'm sorry, I'll be home in a minute, but it was great. And I was just like, I gotta get back in this somehow. The next day, the new principal of Northeastern Academy called me and said, hey man, we need you to come back. I said, it's summertime, I have this job, this, that, and other. He said, no, I don't just want you to come back for the school year, I want you to come back now. We need you to teach some of these students so they can be ready for school. And I was like, has the salary changed? And he said, yes, it's gone up. Oh, okay, praise God. I said, well, what are you going to pay me for the summer? He said, and I've never heard this again or before that, what do you want? I didn't even know what I wanted. But I knew what I was making, and I didn't want that. I told him what I wanted, and he said, okay. And I said, wait, hold on. I mean tax-free. And he said, okay. I quit my job that day, and the next week I was teaching again. And I knew it was where I was supposed to be, because all of a sudden, things were much better. All of a sudden, I could feel in my purpose. You understand what I'm saying? When you're doing what you're supposed to do, there's a feeling that you get, and it's a little more than a feeling. It says this is the road you're supposed to be on. You start to see your future coming clear. You start to see things happening, And you will not be able to explain to somebody who has never been there. It's what you have to do. It's what you have to do, whether you have the money, whether you have the support, whether you have the encouragement. No matter what you have, this is what you're supposed to do. And this is what you need to be in a relationship. You have to know your purpose. And then the last thing that you need to know about yourself is you need to be able, when it's time, to go all in. All in. Which means you're not holding back anything. This is what, when people get married, forsaking all others means. It doesn't mean that because I got married, I forsake the rest of the girls that I know. It means the girls, the guys, the football games, the whatever. You're forsaking all others. You're going all in. You're putting everything you have into this relationship. When you go halfway, the other person can tell. Think about it. Think about the relationships you've had with somebody who was just, he's all right. This is shameful, but I had a girlfriend at Oakwood College. And it feels bad to even tell this story. And I remember we broke up, and I went and I talked to our pastor. We were good friends at Oakwood. I remember I sat in his room. I said, I'm about to get my girlfriend back. And he was like, for real? And I don't know if you know, but he's a big-time motivator. If he agrees with something, he's going to push you to do that thing. So watch out. So he got as excited as I did. And he was like, yeah, man, you about to do this. And we were talking, and we hyped. He had me, up here. And I left his room. When I went to his room, I was thinking I'm going to do it later. But when I left his room, I'm doing it now. I'm getting this girl back right now. And I found her, and I talked to her. And that night, I talked her into dating me again. I don't know what it was. I was just hyped. Well, 2 days later, the USM, the student government, we went on a trip. And I'm sitting next to her on the bus, and I'm all happy because I'm back with my girlfriend. And I'm looking at her. She don't look too happy. And I keep talking to her, and she's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, what's wrong with her? This is weird. Usually, the people I date like me. And so, we had a few conversations, but not much. And I was like, this isn't right. I need to break up with this girl. There's a problem here. And so, I talked to some of my friends, and they were like, yeah, we don't really like you talking to her. This doesn't sound right. You need to break up with her. So I went to her and proceeded to find out what was going on. And I said, this isn't working. And she said, oh, okay. And I said, you don't really seem like you like me. Why did you say you would go with me again if you didn't like me? And she said, because that's what you wanted. Huh? That's what most of us are doing. We're getting in this relationship with Jesus and we're saying, hey, well, you said you wanted me, so here I am. I'm not going to do none of the stuff you want me to do. I'm not going to show you any love. I'm not going to keep your commandments, but here I am. Take me. I'm yours. We can't do that. He doesn't want you like that. He would rather lose you. I know I'm right because he says he'd rather you be hot or cold. When we just give ourselves because he asked, what's the point? There's nothing that he profits from it, and there's nothing we profit. In fact, we go around telling people that we're his, and we're showing them we're not, so all we're doing is being a bad example of what a Christian is. Just like she was being a bad example of what Brian Watt's girlfriend is. It's a travesty. It's horrible. It's a bad testimony. Nothing is worse than a bad testimony. So, how do we go all in? Well, we start from the beginning. First, you have to be attracted. You have to be attracted to him. You have to see him and say, hey, I like the way that Jesus does his thing. I hear testimonies from other people. Is that something I want to be involved in? Yes. Now, there's a big difference between finding something attractive and being attracted to it. Do we know the difference between that? I can think I can see you today and say, oh, you have on a beautiful dress. That means I find your dress attractive. That does not mean I want your phone number and I want to take you to dinner. That's me being attracted to you. Okay, those two get confused a lot. So if I say, oh, today you look beautiful. I don't want anything. I just think you look beautiful today. That's finding you attractive. And then being attracted is when I start to pursue. Okay? So first we have to find it attractive. That's why we pursue, because we found something attractive. Then we have to be attracted to him, which means that his power is pulling us closer and closer, which means I'm allowing myself to be taken in. And then at this third step is the only time you give it all over, is when you become committed. Like the two sisters did today in being baptized. Becoming committed. Not just becoming committed, but becoming so committed that you are willing to show everybody that I'm committed. The weird thing is, I've been married for almost 16 years now. And I know that when I first started dating my wife, which was its own other story. We won't go into that. But I knew that I was in the path to get married because of things that my friends told me. One thing they told me was, you will not shut up talking about that girl. I have never heard anybody's name that much before out of your mouth. You talk about her all the time. The second thing was, will you wipe that goofy smile off of your face? I didn't even know I was smiling. But I would see people and they're like, what is wrong with you? Why don't you stop smiling? I'm like, dude, I'm happy. I'm actually in something that I want everybody to know. And I don't care what else you were talking about, that's what we was going to talk about. Everywhere I went, when I went to alumni, they was like, what's up? Hey, man, I got to tell you about my girl, man. Everywhere I went. That's what we should be doing. How are you telling people that you are sold out and in love with Christ and they have no idea? How are you acting like, why would you come to church to worship him and then all week you never mention his name? Nobody knows. On your job, do they know? In your neighborhood, do they know? I mean, for real, some of us have to reevaluate. Are we in love? Or are we just being loved on? There's a big difference. So we have to become committed. The third thing out of getting to know the other person, getting to know yourself, is that you let your trials teach you and not tear you apart. Very important, this part, because, well, let me just read you the definition. There are two definitions of trial in the dictionary. One, which doesn't fit our discussion here at all. It says a formal examination of evidence before a judge and typically before a jury in order to decide guilt in a case of criminal or civil proceedings. That's a trial like in court. But the second definition says a test of the performance, qualities, or suitability of someone or something. That's all a trial is. That means every time you go through something, it is a test of your performance, of your qualities, if you're suitable. That's what trials are. We look at trials as, oh man, it's just turbulence and it's a problem for our lives. It's a test. The dictionary says it. This is not a spiritual definition. This is not a church dictionary. This is what the regular dictionary says. And how many of you read definitions in the dictionary and go, oh no, that's not true? No one. This is what it's all about. So every time something happens that's bad or that we think is bad, it's to see if we're ready. When I take a test in school, or you take a test in school, any of the students that were graduating, if you failed this test, what does that mean? You're not ready. That's all it means. It's not a judgment on your character. It's not a judgment on your teacher all the time. It's a judgment of, I'm not ready. My performance is not up to par. I'm not suitable for the next thing. Would you not rather know that you weren't suitable for the next thing before the next thing comes? Isn't that a joy for someone to say, hey, well, let me test you first before you go on. Let me not let you keep going. That's love. That's love that I would say to you, okay, let's say in a martial arts class, you're learning how to do karate. And I say to you, fight the master over here. I probably don't want to fight the master. This is my first, I'm a white belt. He's a black belt. Can I get some test posts? I want to know. Test me and then say, okay, you're not ready for him. That's love. Trials and tests equal love. So let's understand that these trials we go through doesn't mean that it's time for us to divorce this God that we're getting with. It's not time for us to leave him. It's time for us to find out how we can pass this trial, how we can get through it. Do you know that when you last throughout a trial, when you get to the end, that you're closer than you ever were? I know all the married people can attest to that. If you've been through something with your spouse, aren't you closer afterwards? Don't you long to be closer? So basically, we're asking for more trials, for more tests. They're the only thing that can do that. Nothing else can make you closer than trials. This is what we need. The text in 1 Peter 1:7 in the New Living Translation says, these trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold. Though your faith is far more precious than mere gold, so when your faith remains strong through many trials, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. This is the ultimate graduation. This is what we should all be looking for. We should be looking for a graduation into a relationship that is eternal. Do you know that every relationship you have here is just to prepare you for the relationship you're supposed to have with him? Especially if you're married, that is all that's about. I have said many times that anytime I've had an issue at home, it's because God is like, you see what you don't like her doing? That's what you're doing to me. Every time I can't figure it out, I'm like, what is wrong? It's not her, Brian. It's you. You're doing that to me. And as soon as I stop doing it to him, everything works out. That's what relationships are for. His relationship is the ultimate relationship. So after these three things, you have to now remember who you are. And who are you? You're three things. One thing, you're gold. If you look in the Bible, gold is mentioned about 417 times. And every time it is the most precious of metals. And he compares us to gold. What does that mean? That means one, that we're very precious to him. And two, we're going to go through what gold goes through. You test gold. You purify gold. You get everything out of it that's not like gold. That's what he wants to do to us. And that is a trial. But look at how good the gold looks afterwards. Look at how precious and how much everybody wants it afterwards. The next thing you are is clay. You are to be molded into something better than you are now. Now, some of us think that what we are right now is pretty great. And okay. But can we get better? Can we move to a point where we've allowed God to do his will in our lives? At Hillcrest, they had a person on stage doing pottery. They had a lot of clay up there, and they were during the sermon, this guy was on the wheel, and he was making bowls and vases and all kind of things. And I saw him making a big bowl. And while the wheel was spinning, the middle of the bowl sort of caved in. And the top just started going crazy, spinning around. I was like, that's done. Throw that out. And I'm looking at him like, you messed up in front of everybody. Wow, that's horrible. He took out a little knife and he put it right under the part where it messed up. and it cut off all of the top that was all messed up. And then proceeded to make the most beautiful bowl half that size. I'm stuck. I'm just looking like, for real? I would have threw the whole thing away. That's what happens to us. There are things, we think that we're being made into something bigger maybe, or something different, but when parts of us fall off, there is something grand that can still come from us. There is something great that can still be made. So whether you're losing your loved ones, or whether your relationship with someone has fallen apart, he still has a plan for you. He's still molding and shaping. As long as you haven't put that clay into the fire to get hard, you can still do whatever you want with it. And that's what he's trying to do. He's intelligent enough not to put us in the fire until it's time to make us what we need to be. So that's what we need to be. The third thing we are is we're all vessels. Does everybody know what a vessel is? A vessel is used to hold liquid. If you have a vessel, most people want to be a full vessel. Nobody wants to be empty. But in order for a vessel to be used, it has to be emptied. When I come to you with a vessel of orange juice, I'm sure you want me to empty it. You want me to pour it in your glass and in your glass and in your glass. And the only way for it to be filled again is for what? For it to get empty. But why do we complain when we're empty? Why do we complain when there's no more, when we know there's more coming? It's happened before. It happens over and over again. But every time we're empty, we feel down. We're complaining. It's a problem in every relationship if you don't remember what's happened before. Okay? If you have kids and your kids are hungry and they say, "Mom, Dad, I'm hungry," and you feed them, and you do this for years, and then one day they say they're hungry and they just act erratic, and you say, "What's happening? I don't think you're going to feed me." What would you say? Haven't I fed you before? Have I ever not fed you? Have I ever left you hungry? And if they said no, then you'd really think, okay, then what is your problem? Has he ever left you empty? Ever. But our minds are so shot that we don't even remember. Every time we act erratic, and we can't understand, why am I empty right now? Why is my bank account empty? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And believe me, I'm not talking to you like I have it down. There are plenty of people who could testify to you how crazy I've acted when I was empty. Maybe last week. It's a problem we all have. But we have to learn how to continue to look forward to what happened before. That is the reason for testimonies. That is the reason we need each of you giving your testimony, not just coming up here, standing, giving your testimony, calling people, testifying, saying, "Hey, look, this is what God did for me." So I can say, "Oh, right, he did that for me before, I remember." I'm not going to go crazy every time I'm empty. I'm not going to lose my mind when parts of me are taken away or something I love gets taken away. I'm not going to lose my mind when I have to go through the fire as gold just to be purified. These trials are to show that I'm suitable. And sooner or later, guess what? I'm going to be suitable. I'm going to be exactly what he wanted me to be. I'm going to be everything that I never was because I stood the test of time and I allowed him to be inside of me. God is supposed to be inside of each one of us. That is the only way to be on one accord. Is for the God in me to be attracted to the God in you, and then all of a sudden, we have it all together. But if we don't let him in, and I mean all in, we will never make it. We will never be in that great relationship with him. So I'm asking you today, get to know Jesus. Get to know yourself. Understand that your trials are here to teach you and to bring you to another level. And then remember what you are and what he wants to do with you.